Welcome to Pontification Nation. I'm your host, Ricky Skiddo, coming to you live, as always, from my mother's basement. And we are looking at AOC again today. It's the gift that just keeps on giving if you are a conservative and you don't like people like this being in the government. So I want to just update you. There's a little bit more kind of in-depth, detailed information because AOC has come out to Fox and said that there's no dark money, there's no violations, we've done nothing wrong. So let's examine that with some facts and see what the fact pattern tells us. And you can make your own conclusion after understanding the fact pattern. Okay, so the basic gist of this article states that AOC and her chief of staff, Aoc, have basically maintained control of this Justice Democrats Political Action Committee throughout her entire campaign. And that's okay if you tell everyone that that's what's happening. You know, like she has her PAC now to be used for certain things. And there's all different kinds of PACs that you can use for all different types of things. And it's okay to use a PAC as long as you say you're using a PAC. But they clearly said they weren't using PACs or corporate money. And that just seems to be verifiably false. So from the piece. If the FEC finds that the New York Democrats campaign operated in affiliation with the PAC, which had raised more than $1.8 million before her June 18 primary, it would open them up to massive reporting violations, probably at least some illegal contribution violations exceeding the lawful limits, former FEC Commissioner Brad Smith said. Now, Obama had, I think 3 million in reporting violations in 2008. He got slapped with like a $300,000 fine. And generally, this stuff is all settled with just fines as long as there was no intent to deceive or anything like that. So let's examine whether or not there was any intent to deceive. AOC never disclosed to the FEC that she and Chakrabarty, who served as her campaign chair, controlled the PAC while it was simultaneously supporting her primary campaign, and former FEC commissioners say that arrangement could lead to multiple campaign finance violations. The group backed 12 Democrats during the 2018 members, but AOC was the only one of those to win her general election. If these facts as alleged are true and a candidate had control over a PAC that was working to get that candidate elected, then that candidate is potentially in very big trouble and may have engaged in multiple violations of federal campaign finance law, including receiving excessive contributions. So let's look at the reporting on this. Now, this is from February 2018. This is, I guess, an FEC form that you have to fill out. The thing that we want to look at for our own purposes: name of any connected organization, affiliated committee, joint fundraising representative, or leadership PAC sponsor. None. Okay, let's examine that. Now, we said this was in February of 2018. Now here, on December 22nd, 2017, the Justice Democrats say, "We are deeply disturbed by recent news regarding these two people, and their language and conduct is horrifying, does not reflect our values." So basically, they are asking for the immediate resignation of the Young Turk people. You gotta love the Wayback Machine. So here it says on December 2nd, 2017, the current board is Cenk, Kyle, AOC, and Aoc. Okay? Let's move forward because we were looking at February, right? Now, this isn't a majority control, so maybe we could explain this away. So who is running Justice Democrats? Who are the major players? The current board of justice is Kyle, Alexandria, and Aoc, and that's on December 25th. So this is coming from their webpage, the Justice Democrats, in December of 2017. Now, AOC and Aoc have a majority control of the board, and anything they say goes. So I think that they would have to answer that they do have control of a board and an affiliated fundraising campaign if that were the case on their FEC forms that they filled out in March of the following year or February of the following year. So far we've established that they are fudging information, or maybe just forgetting that they happen to be in control of a PAC that's generating $2 million in contributions up to that point. But they made a mistake on their, with a quote unquote, made a mistake on their FEC filings. But just to be clear where we're at, so here's the actual Articles of Incorporation in DC for this particular PAC, the Justice Democrats. This was issued on 10/2/17. And on 10/2/17, it has Zach, Senk, and Kyle, with Senk being the, decision maker. Now this was filed on March 28th, and it has Sakat, Nassim, and AOC. Now this was the last filing. There are no other filings after this one. So 3/28/2018, we have Sakat, Nassim, and AOC. Now this is what they say in July of 2018, that the board is Alexandra, Nassim, and Sakat, and AOC has been taken out. But they've never amended the actual filing documents with DC like they did with the Young Turks right after they said the Young Turks are out. So, I don't know. What do you think? And for the record, this form filed on February 6th, 2018. And here we have on March 23rd, 2018, the current board is AOC and Sakat. So they had complete and total control of this PAC by themselves for a period of time, which should be investigated. I don't know exactly what that period of time was, but it certainly is not proper to lie on your FEC forms, and also it's not proper to have control over a PAC that you're not disclosing to anyone. That's actually, we would call that illegal. Now, back to the piece. And again, all these people that we're quoting in this piece, just to be fair, are Republican FEC commissioners, past commissioners, attorneys, etc. But every one of them is Republican, not a Democrat. It looks like the campaign and the PAC are under common control, and the PAC was funding campaign staff and activities as an alter ego of the campaign committee, which would be a blatant abuse of the PAC rules. Ocasio-Cortez and Chakrabarti would face prison if the FEC determines that they knowingly and willfully withheld their ties between the campaign and the Political Action Committee from the FEC to bypass campaign contribution limits, according to Smith. At a minimum, there's a lot of smoke there. And if there are really only 3 board members and she and Sakat were 2 of them, sure looks like you can see the blaze. I don't really see any way out of it. Now, the thing that gets me is they have to be found to be willfully withheld their ties between the campaign and the PAC. And they might be able to argue that they didn't know any better. But the problem is Sakat worked for the Bernie Sanders campaign and ran a company basically to do this for candidates. So it would be really hard for him to say that he didn't understand what he was doing. And I mean, AOC, she could pretty much say, I had no idea. And I think everyone in the world would believe that she had no idea what she was doing, because she doesn't have any idea what she's doing. But Sakat does have an idea of what he's doing. And I believe that this is all intentional, because it's clear on the form they have to fill out that, this is, very, very clear. It comes down here. They talk about, if there are PACs, party committee, political action committee. So this kind of talks about the disclosure of the committees that are supporting you, because this is allowable behavior in our republic. It's not like it's illegal for a PAC to help a candidate. So the illegal part comes when you don't tell anyone that, and you also tell people things that are the exact opposite of that, because you aren't someone who works with PACs or does anything the way that the old system was. And that's what they're trying to say right now, is that the the way that they had this set up was new and different, and nobody actually understands what they were doing. Yeah, right. I think we all clearly understand what you were doing and want some answers, people. So here the piece continues to kind of discuss what we just went through. Justice Democrats stated on its website from December 17th until 2 weeks after AOC won her primary that she and Chakrabarty were in legal control of the PAC, and corporate filings obtained by the DCNF show that the two still serve on the three-member board of the Justice Democrats on paper. So the Justice Democrats say that there are different people on their board now, but in reality, there has been no other filing as of Monday, which was yesterday, to state that the board is any different than the three people that were on there that we just looked at. So it's suspect at best and criminal at worst. This article continues. The admission makes it open and shut if someone wants to file a complaint with the FEC. I don't see how the FEC could not investigate that. We've even got their own statement on their website that they control the organization. I don't see how you can avoid an investigation on that. Now, please, if there are any lawyers out there that like election law, please file a complaint, because I don't believe a complaint has been filed about this yet. There is a complaint filed, but I don't think it deals with this specifically. You know, the combination of the PAC and the campaign, which again, if done properly, is legal, which is crazy that they didn't just do it properly. But because they were trying to help all the other candidates, I'm assuming that's why they didn't, because it wasn't, even though really AOC was the only person they were actually helping, most likely. You know, I don't see where they can say that there's anything other than criminality here. So let's look at this a little bit closer. If this were determined to be knowing and willful, they could be facing jail time. Even if it's not knowing and willful, it would be a clear civil violation of the act, which would require disgorgement of the contributions and civil penalties. I think they've got some real issues here. They cannot not know that they are the heads of the Justice Democrats when they put out a press release on December 22nd and change the organizational chart with the District of Columbia on December 25th, and then file an FEC form that says they're not on any committees or political action committees or affiliated on February 6th. What happened between December 25th and February 6th that you can't remember that you put out a press release and change the structure of of a political action committee to include yourself in it? How can you not remember that happening? Because it seemed like it was a big deal based on what your actions were during that time. Now, this is the part that really, wets my whistle, grinds my gears, frustrates the hell out of me. And I am not an expert at reading this garbage, so I could be totally misinterpreting this. But we have here total operating expenditures. Total operating expenditures $469,000. And then contributions to candidates and committees is $7,800. So what are they doing with the money if they're not spending it on giving it to candidates? I get there's probably stuff in here that I don't understand. I'd love to see some line item stuff on this. I think this is a 370-page document. There's a lot of information in here about, who was giving money. So I don't know if there's itemized lists of how this money was spent, but I don't think there has to be an itemized list on how it was spent if it's just an operating expense. I believe that these campaign contributions would have to be itemized. So where is all this money going from this PAC, and what are they spending it on? If I were an FEC person, that's the kind of stuff that I would want to look at in this situation. But at the end of the day, you can have a PAC that supports you solely, which she does now. She has a PAC already, which we established in the last video. But you have to tell the voters and the people, the government, what you're doing, where the money's coming from, where it's going, and using this as operating expense, in my opinion, is probably a way to launder the money over to the Justice Democrats LLC. And the other thing I'm going to look at, which I haven't looked at, is when the PAC was formed and when the LLC was formed. If the LLC was formed like right after they kicked the Young Turks out, then we have a pretty clear line of sight that this was Sacrat doing this, and he was trying to avoid any kind of reporting about how he was spending the money. I believe that 100%, because I think with the Turks there, if you have the LLC and you're dispersing all the money of the LLC, the Turks might have something to say about that. Then maybe not. Maybe maybe they're all in on it. I don't know. But I'm gonna do a little bit more digging, because every time I look at this, I have new questions and more questions, and it's all very fascinating to me, and I hope it's fascinating to you as well. Thank you all very much for listening. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for taking time out of your busy day. I appreciate it. For Pontification Nation, this is Ricky Skittle, and I'm out.